Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be discussing Zyra. So why Zyra is a good pick in 7.2 and will likely be a good pick in the near future. Now they are doing a couple of nerfs to Zyra in 7.3. I think they're changing some about her plant AI, and I think they're nerfing the cost on her Q to make it cost 10 more mana. But overall, I still think she will continue to be a very strong support pick. And a lot of people have asked, well, why do I play Zyra so much? What's so good about her? So here's a guide. Now I will show you this statistic too, early on, which I've shown before. So this season, Zyra is extremely strong. Very, very strong. So I was Diamond 5 last season. Let me go ahead and renew this. I was Diamond 5 last season, and I've had a bit of a hard time early on climbing this season. And I talk about why in my Psychology and Advanced Tactics video on my channel, and I think I've kind of found a solution, but one of the major things is Zyra. I started playing Zyra a lot, started winning a lot. Now, I did play Zyra a lot in Season 3. I had about 400 games in Season 3 with Zyra, so I was already pretty familiar with her mechanics. But she's very, very strong, and we're going to talk about why in this video. But as you can see, I have a 61% win rate after about 110 games with Zyra, and I'm do well with Janna at 56%, and then everyone else is basically in the gutter. So Malzahar, my win rate's only about 45%. Nautilus about 48. Tom Kinch is down to 38. And just for comparison, comparing to last season, my Tom Kinch is 51, my Janna is 54, my Nautilus is 57, Alistar is 53. So most champions that I play over 100 games, I usually end up, going higher than 50%. So it's very unusual for me to be that low. But anyway, so why is this? Why is Zyra at 61% when all the rest of them are much, much lower? And she was higher for quite a long time. I just recently started falling back down a little bit, but I was hovering around 65 or 66 through the first 70 or 80 games. So let's talk about why she's so strong. Okay, so first of all, let's think about why are AP supports in general really strong right now. So that's one thing that I've done to climb up quite a lot. I got placed into Gold 2. I've been as high as Plat 4, I think, in promos for Plat 3. And right now I'm sitting around Plat 5. So it takes a little while with support for a variety of reasons. If you're interested in sort of why it's more difficult to climb this season, check out my Psychology and Advanced Tactics video. I explain it. A lot of it has to do with the autofill system and the 1v1 culture that's been proliferating lately. So and it's not that supports get auto-filled. You don't ever get auto-filled as support. So I'm not saying that I've gotten auto-filled and I can't play other roles. I'm saying that other people get auto-filled and they're not used to playing other roles, and so that creates a lot more turbulence in games. That's why you see much more often people get frustrated and rage out, or they go 0-10 top lane or something, because they're not used to playing the lane, because they just came off of a season with the dynamic queue where you never got autofilled. You always got one of the two roles that you requested. And so this new autofill system is really terrible. It's just terrible for rank. That's all there is to it. And yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, should people be able to play every position? Yes. Do they know how to play every position? No. So for all practical purposes, it just creates a ton of volatility. And it makes it really hard to determine games. As support in particular. So that's part of why AP supports are so popular right now, is that if you have somebody who goes 0-10 top lane and you're an AP support and you do very well bottom lane, you can pick up their slack and take over the mid and the late game, especially as Zyra, for the reasons we're going to talk about. But that's why they're so popular. That's one of the reasons, is that the autofill system, let me add that in here. I forgot to... There we go. So it means that you have to have a more proactive support. If you want to know more about the current meta and why it's happening the way that it is, check this out, my meta analysis video, and also check out the one that I just mentioned, the Psychology and Advanced Tactics video. They're all free. I'm not selling anything. It's just, those are very long videos. They're about an hour each with great timestamps and all that stuff, kind of like this one. By the way, be sure to look in the description. You can find timestamps for everything that I talk about here, and you can also find this Google Doc if you want to read it over. But do check out these other videos, because I don't have time to explain all the nuances of why the meta is the way that it is, or why it's difficult to climb this season. Just check those out. It's great information. But here's sort of the TLDR version of it. So autofill, 80 champions are also very popular right now, so it's not uncommon to see something like a Riven top and a Kha'Zix jungle, for example. So many teams will have 3 ADs on them and just a mid laner who's AP. Sometimes you'll have 4 ADs. Sometimes you'll have a mid laner that's Talon or something. So you really need AP to balance out AD compositions, you don't want their team to be able to get away with stacking armor and not buying any MR. So having that extra AP bottom helps balance it out, keep them honest, makes them buy those items. Okay, so that's a major reason. Another one is AD champions in general are very weak right now. So there are a few minor exceptions to that, but for the most part, ADs are just really weak. Jhin is still pretty strong early, but outside of that, I mean, maybe Draven. The nerfs to flat penetration were helpful in patch 7.2, but they're still very, very weak. AD champions can just get bullied out big time bottom lane, and so that's why you need an AP support. So if you have something like a Zyra or a Brand or a Malzahar, and the jungler tries to come and gank you, you might actually stand a chance of killing one of them if you can keep the enemy low through poke, which is also important. So we'll talk about that more when we get to the laning guide, but in general, AD carries are very weak, so you need power early game, and AP supports give a lot of power in the early game. Okay, tanks are also not very popular. Like, Maokai is very good, he's very strong, but he's not picked a ton in solo queue. People prefer the flashy 1v1, like, outplay supports top lane right now, so he's really powerful, but he's not picked a ton. Poppy is similar, and Nautilus, they're all very good top lane. Now, AP champions have a hard time against tanks, particularly Poppy and Maokai, because you just can't burst through them, and they can get to you and kill you. So in general, Zyra is not as strong in a heavy tank meta. She can be okay because she gets Leandries, but, you know, there just aren't a lot of tanks, so that's not a problem. So burst damage is really strong because if you catch someone out with an AP support, you're probably going to kill them because people just aren't building tanky or resistances. Even champions that are tank aren't building tank. I mean, I saw a major YouTuber on my stream yesterday who was building like all AD Hecarim, which didn't even make any sense, but I've seen people do silly stuff like that. Like, they'll go all AD damage Hecarim, or all AD Camille, or all whatever, because it's cool, you know? They want to do that. They want that 1v1. They want to burst people and blow them up. So a lot of people just aren't building tankies. That means Zyra can one-shot people, which is very good. And finally, snowball champions are very popular right now. So things like Kha'Zix, Rengar. Rengar's going to be nerfed a lot next patch, but Kha'Zix will still be around. Hecarim's very snowball-y. There's a lot of champions where if you get ahead early, they can close out the game because they get extremely powerful. And so that's why one of the reasons why the early game is more crucial than ever. And there are lots of snowball mechanics. There's first tower blood. The dragons are very strong. If you get them early, particularly water dragon is extremely strong in the early game. So there are a lot of reasons to really want to pressure and win the early game strong. So that's another reason that Zyra is very good. She's extremely good in the early game. Okay, so let's talk about some Zyra basics here. Make sure my hair's starting to look a little crazy. I've been running around all day. Haven't had time to hop in the shower since this morning, so hopefully it doesn't get too weird. If it does, I hope you'll forgive me. But let's go ahead and hop in here and just talk about some Zyra basics. If you're new to Zyra or you've been thinking about picking her up, how does she work? What are her stats? What is she good at? And what are some things that you need to pay attention to about her? Okay, so the first most conspicuous thing about Zyra, well, one thing is she's 575 range, so that's very important to note. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to ranges, but she's 575. This is a higher auto attack range than most AD carries. Most AD carries are 550. So that means you can sneak in auto attacks often when they are going to last hit a minion. You can sneak in an auto attack every now and then. And that adds up. You know, hitting them for 40 damage here, 40 damage there every time they go in for a minion really quickly means they're going to be run out of lane. So because she has such a high auto attack range, it allows her to do quite a lot of harass early. She actually has some pretty good movement speed too. They buffed this somewhere along the line because it used to be 325, but now it's 340, so that's pretty good. I mean, she has decent armor, no scaling magic resist, so she's relative. I mean, basically she's pretty squishy. So you don't want to get hit, but the main number there is 575, so you want to make sure that you're using those auto attacks to harass whenever you can. Okay, the plant damage. So every little while, depending on her level, she spawns plants on the ground. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I haven't been able to master exactly how to get these to spawn. They do seem somewhat random, but they always go in front of you, and they tend to spawn, if you're moving in a direction, then they tend to spawn in that like general vicinity. So, for example, if you see that you have 3 seconds left before it's about to spawn another one, and you'll see a countdown. I've got some footage for you here in a second where you can see this. Then you want to try to move towards someone that you might want to harass, and it just might place the plant next to them. It has a much higher probability of doing that if you walk towards them. So just walk towards somebody right when it's about to spawn, and if it does spawn, then you get a free plant that you can harass with. So that's kind of a small thing, but you really want to make sure that you're setting up those random seeds in places that are going to be helpful. So when you're trying to help someone leash blue buff, don't stand far away from them and face the other direction, or you're not going to get plants on it. You want to stand near it, and you want to walk around facing towards where the blue buff or the red buff are going to spawn, so that it puts plants on it, you can attack it. Or if you're prepping for Baron or Dragon, whenever this plant is about to spawn, you need to walk towards them close so that the plants will spawn around it, and you can use them for damage. And the same is true of laning. Whenever you're laning, try to put them near your opponent so you can actually use them. So, you know, it's difficult to play around that all the time, but if you can, just keep that in mind. Walk towards the area where you want it to spawn when it's going to spawn. Okay. So how do these plants work? You can also place them yourself with a W once you get your W. So you get 1 seed every, 20 seconds, and it goes down from there. And the plants are the majority of your damage. When you spawn the plants, that's where most of your damage comes from as Zyra. So let's just look at them since we're talking about them. So you can get 2 different kinds of plants. You can get a Thorn Spitter, which has 750 range. That's a lot of range. That's a very, very far shooting plant. So 750, and they deal 29 to 114 damage based on level, but then they also have a 0.15 AP ratio. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but AP is still pretty good, because if you spawn this plant and it hits 3 times, that's still a 0.45 AP ratio. So that's okay. But their base damages are, of course, where most of their damage comes from. So, level 5, it's 50 damage. Whereas to double that, to make it 100 damage, you would need, 300 AP or something like that. So the vast majority of their damage comes from this per level table, and your AP contributes some to it, but not nearly as much as your base level. So this is why penetration is so good on Zyra, and AP is okay, but penetration is much better because the base damage on these plants is really high. I mean, if that hits 3 times, it's 150 damage, which is a lot. Considering you can have multiple of these down, I mean, you're talking like 3 things hitting for that much in a fight. It's a lot. Also, if you use Strangle Thorns, then it attacks, it deals 50% bonus magic damage, so it does 50% even more damage. It used to increase their attack speed. I guess they changed that just to a flat damage. But yeah, so if you use your ultimate, and the ultimate goes over any plants, and those plants deal 50% extra damage. So it's really, really important to make sure that your plants are down when you use the Strangle Thorns, your ultimate. Now, it's also important to look at this. Deals 50% damage if it's not the first plant to attack the target. So if you have multiple plants, it's not going to do double damage. It only does 150% damage. So it's okay to do double plants, but when you're harassing, you really just want to do single plants at a time so that you get the maximum efficiency out of those. All right. So that's Thorn Spitter. You want to use them for harassment most of the time. You also have Vine Lasher. It's the same damage. The same attack speed, it just only has 400 range instead, but it slows. So it applies is it like a 30% slow? So it applies a 30% slow. It's great with Leandries. It's great for slowing people down, holding them into certain areas of the fight, but it's only 400 range. So it's about half the range of the other one. So you don't want to be using that a ton to harass, although it's okay in all-in situations. So those are the plants. To get the ranged plant, you have to hit the plant with a Deadly Spines that has 800 range. Now you notice the plant where you can use plants is 850 range. So just make sure, I know it can sometimes be awkward, if you're trying to place a plant and throw a Deadly Spines on it, it might come up short. Or so usually it'll hit it anyways. It gives you a little bit of leeway there, but just keep in mind that this is much longer. And this actually, let me just talk about the roots here really quick. Her roots have 1100 range, but your plant only has 850. So when you try to throw this line root shot, then you can't actually set a plant down for the last 250 range. So if it's someone who's going to hit just at the very end of the range, your plant may not be in time for the grasping roots to spawn it. So just keep that in mind. That can be awkward. You'll notice that when you try to play Zyra. But the general playstyle that you want is you press the ability. Both of them have a delay. So this has like a half a second delay. After you press the ability, then you press W, and it puts a plant right where the ability is, and then as soon as the ability finishes its cast, then you get the plant. So you don't want to place the plant first and then do the ability, or they're going to know where the ability is going to be. You want to do ability and then plant. It takes some getting used to. It's weird. There's not a lot of other champions like that. And that's why it can sound like, if you ever watch my stream, like I'm just like slamming buttons all the time, like I'm just tapping buttons really quick on the keyboard. It's because to do some of these combos, you have to hit a lot of buttons. So if you're going for a full all-in combo, it's going to be E, W, W, R, Q. So that's a lot of buttons to press in like a quarter of a second to make it all work. So, you know, she does have a lot more button tapping, a lot more APM to get some of these combos off. Actions per minute. That's an old school, like StarCraft 1 term. But her spells themselves don't appear to do a lot of damage compared to other mages, right? So this only has a 50% ratio. This only has a 60% ratio. So her ratios are low, and the top end is only 200 damage. Whereas a lot of mages, it's like 240 or 280 even in some cases. So it looks like it's really low damage, but that's because the plants just do an astronomical amount of damage. So, you know, hit them with the spells, but definitely make sure you're using your plants correctly is the moral of the story. And you want to max your E first. People ask me all the time, well, why don't you max Q first? Why don't you max Q first? Because your E is your crowd control, and it can hit multiple targets in a team fight. I mean, I've seen team fights where I hit 4 people with this. I'm sure I've hit 5 people before, but it's not uncommon to hit at least a couple of people if they're in a tightly packed area with this root. And 1.75 like root duration is a lot. Like that holds them in place. That lets them take 2 more plant shots if they're stunned for that long. Well, not stunned. They can still, I think, auto attack when they're rooted, but it's really, really good. So you wanna max this first. This is really only good for poke and lane. As you can see, they do the exact same amount of damage, right? So it's not like you're getting more damage by doing the Q. And your plant doesn't get any bonus from maxing your Q either. If you just have a level 1 Q and spawn a plant with it, it's going to do the exact same damage as if you had a level 5 Q and you spawned a plant with it. So all you're getting is a little bit more base damage, and that's it. You know, this has a lower cooldown, so you can spam this more, but you're just getting like marginally lower cooldown, right? It's like 7 to 5 seconds, which is good, but it's also, I guess this does get more expensive, but in general, like the playstyle that I like at least, you're not spamming your Q a lot. Zyra can run out of mana pretty quickly. She has pretty low bases, and you don't get Morellonomicon or any kind of mana regeneration, so you don't want to be spamming your Q that much. You only want to use it if you have a plant to go with it most of the time. Whereas your E is excellent for all-in. It roots people, holds them in place, lets more plants hit them, lets allies hit them, keeps them in place for your ultimate. It's very, very good. Alright, and then you have the ultimate itself. It's only 700 range, but that's when you start the cast where the middle of the plant is. So when it extends out, it probably goes up closer to about 1,000 range. But it only has 700 cast range, which is pretty close for a squishy champion like Zyra, but it's very powerful. It's got about a 2-minute cooldown, so you don't want to waste it. And once again, the damage doesn't look like it'll blow you away, right? It's only 180 damage. But it does crowd control people, knock them up for a second, and most importantly, it enrages all the plants. They deal 50% more damage. So, you know, it only looks like 180, but if there's a couple of plants on them, that very quickly turns to 400 or 500 damage on this ultimate. It's very, very strong. Okay, so that's the basics of Zyra. Let's go ahead and talk about some of her strengths. So why would you pick Zyra? And then after we talk about the strengths, I'll talk about the itemization. Then we'll talk about popular comparisons for Zyra. Then we'll talk about how to lane with her, how to roam, and how to team fight. And then I have a playlist that I didn't link. So I'll link this after the video. So you don't see it in here, but it'll be here when the video actually gets processed. There'll be a link right here. And you can watch. I think I have 25 Zyra videos right now. And I'm constantly adding more because I play her a lot. But let's go up here real quickly. Okay, so why pick Zyra overall? So she has very high damage, as I just discussed. She has an excellent all-in, which means if you hit them with a grasping root, put 2 plants on them, and ultimate, it's very, very high damage. I mean, it's akin to something like an Annie ultimate with a Tibbers on you, or like a Brand, like full combo. It's a lot of damage. So enough to kill most squishy champions, even at level 6. She has excellent harass, because remember, her Q has pretty good range on it by itself, right? So wasn't it like 800 range? Yeah, but the plant has 750 range. So if no one's around, I mean, that's a 1550 range for harass. If you put a plant at max range and it fires at max range, that's really, really far for harass. So that situation doesn't come up a lot, but it's not uncommon to put a plant on somebody in lane and they have to run pretty far away to get away from it. So That's really good. She has great push and objective control, so she can clear waves very quickly with her plants. And they also take Dragon and Baron really quickly, particularly after you get Leandri's Torment. So it's very, very good. She has good range. So, you know, in the 800 range on most of her spells, that's pretty strong. It's not as safe as something like Brand. I think Brand has a bit more range on his stuff. But, except for his E, just like his W and his Q. But it's still pretty good. And she has the AP damage, which I talked about, which is a major boon because so many people are building AD right now that it's nice to have some AP on your team. So what are some of her weaknesses? Well, she's very squishy, so if you ever get caught out, you're dead. She has no escapes. Like, the best you're going to get is trying to hit them with your roots and maybe a slowing plant to get away. That's about all you have. So if you ever get caught, you're dead. It's a pretty predictable skill shot. It doesn't say how fast it moves, I don't think, here. It doesn't say the speed that the skill shot moves at, but these roots are very slow, particularly at max range. I mean, someone will have like a full second to dodge it if they're at max range. So it's really slow. It's like not quite as slow as Morgana's Q, but it's like in the neighborhood. It's very, very slow, and it's a slender skill shot, so it can be hard to hit. If you're just firing it at someone max range, wide out in the open, it can be a little hard to hit. She doesn't have the escapes, like I just mentioned, and she's very vulnerable to poke. So anything that can hit her, outrange her, so Varus, Ezreal, Misfortune is a very common counter pick. Vel'Koz, Lux. Anything that can kind of poke her from a distance where she can't get in and engage is going to be bad news. So she can be pretty vulnerable to poke. So what are some of the matchups then that she's good with? So she's good with champions like Draven, Jhin, Lucian, Misfortune, Caitlyn. Just things that can harass with her early and play up. I'll talk about playing up here in a second. But she's good with aggressive champions early on. So she's very good against squishy champions that you can catch and all in and blow up. So she's good against Sona, Nami. Thresh is very squishy in the early game. I said Braum. I mean, she's okay against Braum. I'll take Braum out. He's decent against her, but... And Draven. So just like champions that are close range, that don't really have a lot of good escapes. They don't have a lot of good ways to dodge roots. So Vayne, for example, can roll away from roots pretty easily every time you try to root her if it's a good Vayne. So that's why she's not great against Vayne. She's not great against Ezreal. She's actually okay against Twitch, so I'll change that. Twitch can outrange and blow her up, but realistically, a lot of Twitches that are under Diamond don't really maximize his range. So we'll say Varus is kind of the new hotness, and I still pick her into Varus, but it can be problematic. Actually, no, she's good with Varus. That's what she's bad with Twitch. There we go. So she's bad with Vayne, Ezreal, and Twitch. Yeah, they don't have a lot of early game pressure, and Twitch and Vayne in particular need a lot more peel. So she's bad against Ezreal, Caitlyn, Misfortune, Hecarim, long-range champions where it's going to be hard to hit your roots. Alright, items that I recommend. Sorcerer shoes, Eye of the Watchers. You want Eye of the Watcher pretty quickly. You're going to need to ward a lot for kind of her bush ganking patterns that we'll talk about here in a second. Leandri's Torment almost always wants to be what you want to rush that. And then Void Staff is what I recommend after Leandri's. And then if you need to, Abyssal Scepter is very good, particularly if you have another AP on your team like an Echo that doesn't have it. It's very powerful. It helps you against squishy targets because if you zero them out with your penetration from Leandri's, your runes, your masteries, and Void Staff, if they don't have any magic resist, which a lot of squishy champions won't after all of that, then this gives you an additional 10% damage. So it's not the armor penetration that it used to be, it's just a flat out plus 10% damage, which means you're doing even more true damage at that point. That's really good. And then Luden's Echo is excellent for burst, and it's pretty good for poke as well. So, pretty good item. The runes that I recommend, just 9 Magic Pen, just Magic Pen everywhere. One thing that I have seen some people doing is only run 1 Magic Pen Quint and then 2 Armor Pens. I'll go ahead and put that down, or not Armor Pen, Flat Armor. And this is what I've been doing more. You get a little bit, you get 4 less penetration, but it does make you a lot more durable in lane. It doubles your starting armor, so it's pretty good in lane. And you always want to go Thunderward Mastery. Your plants help proc the Thunderwards, which is really good. And you're not going to be getting a lot of AP, you're getting mostly penetration, so Deathfire Touch is good, but it's not as good as it would be on something that builds a lot of flat AP, something like a Ziggs. So it's okay. Yeah, and then if you're wondering about the itemization, especially like Rylai's, why not Rylai's? That's what everyone gets on Zyra. Rylai's is not that great on Zyra most of the time, especially after the nerf. It seems like it is. People have historically gotten that item, but over the years, the ways that they've changed Leandri's, the ways that they've changed Void Staff, and a lot of other itemization means that you want Leandri's Void Staff most of the time. And if you're just wondering why that is, I've linked a video here to this guy named Melon, M-E-L-Y-N. He's a master level Zyra player, and he's a very popular Zyra theorist online. He has a decent amount of content on his channel, but he doesn't upgrade it a lot. But anyways, if you love Zyra, you should check him out. I went ahead and timestamped a video where he talks specifically about items and Rylai's, and he has excellent charts and spreadsheets that he explains as to why you want to go Leandri's Void Staff. And now he's even talking about the pre-nerf Rylai's. So the Rylai's that used to give you like 100 AP and it used to slow for 40%. And he still didn't like it as much as Void Staff. So just check it out. He's got the numbers for you. And just mathematically, trust me, you definitely want to get Void Staff and not Rylai's as fast as you possibly can. He even recommends even Void Staff first item. He said it's a toss-up between Leandri's and Void Staff. I like Leandri's. I like the health. And I like the flat penetration, but there's definitely an argument for Void Staff. It's extremely popular. Leandri's is also easier. The items are easier to pick up. It has Haunting Guise, which is an important item spike breakpoint at 1500 gold, whereas Void Staff is very annoying to try to build because it costs like 1365 to combine to get it. So you just have to sit around and wait for 1365 gold before it really does anything. So Void Staff is a lot more annoying to purchase, but Leandri's has a pretty solid build path. Okay, so that's itemization. Popular comparisons. So Zyra gets compared a lot to Malzahar. So what are the strengths and weaknesses? I like Zyra in the vast majority of situations. I know pros a lot of times will pick Malzahar as well. Zyra is also popular in pro games, but Zyra has longer range. She has higher burst damage. She's better at team fighting. She's better poking lane. She has better scaling, and she has better bush ganking people. Malzahar is better at breaking tanks, so because he has really high percentage-based damage and lockdown CC, he's good at peeling off that Malachi or Poppy that is trying to kill your AD carry on the backline. And he's better at roaming. So if you catch someone out in an ultimate, in a 2-on-2 situation in the gank, you can just walk right up to them, ult, they're gonna die. Usually, if your teammates actually do something. That's the problem that I've had with Malzahar, is that teammates often just won't follow up when you ult. It sounds crazy. They're sitting there in a 2.5 second suppression that they can't get out of, but there's been so many games where I just sit there and watch my teammates, watch me ult somebody. They don't do anything, and then I die. And it's very frustrating. So Zyra doesn't have that problem because you just straight kill them yourself. It doesn't matter if your teammates aren't paying attention or they're too scared or they don't know what their champions do or whatever. You can just straight kill them with Zyra. So Malzahar is good, but I think he gets a lot better at higher elos where people will actually follow up on his ultimate. Okay, Zyra versus Brand. This is another commonly asked question. So Zyra has more reliable poke, more team fight crowd control, similar damage, more reliable damage focus during team fights because of the random nature of Brand's bouncing ultimate. Brand's ultimate is very good in team fights, don't mistake it, but Zyra's is a little bit more reliable. You can choose who you want to root and put the plants on in ultimate. So if there's a really high priority target that you need to kill, you know, that Riven, and you need all the damage on her, and you don't want to have to worry about, well, what if I throw the ultimate on Riven and she only gets hit once and it bounces to all of her allies and she doesn't die? That's kind of a thing that you have to worry about as Brand sometimes. So Zyra's a lot more reliable, and she has lower mana costs on most of her stuff. Now, Brand does have higher burst damage. You know, in lane, it's easier to kill them by yourself with Brand. If you hit him with a W and a Q, that's a lot of damage, especially at level 2. He has way more burst potential at level 2. He has longer ranges, so he can be a little bit safer with his W and his Q than Zyra can be. And I don't think he has a faster move speed anymore. Let me look and see. They're similar. Oh, well, I can't backspace on this, but I think they both still have 340. I think they buffed her move speed somewhere in the past. So I'm pretty sure they both have 340. So Brand's okay, but I think Brand does harass under tower better. So Zyra can't really harass under tower a lot because the tower will kill her plants, and that's most of her harassment. Whereas Brand can still hit them with Ws and Qs under tower and potentially kill people under tower. So Malzahar also has a problem harassing people under tower because he uses pets as well. So Brand is good at bursting people in lane, killing them under tower, and he has a pretty good team fight later, but he just doesn't have as much gank potential as the other two. Okay, so here's kind of a quick laning guide. So you want to max your E first. Melon also talks about this in his video. People ask me all the time, why don't you max Q? Well, let's look and see. So Q, as I just explained a little bit ago, it does the same damage as E, so you're not getting more damage, and you can proc the plant, whether it's a level 1 Q or a level 5 Q, it's still going to proc the plant. Like the only reason you would do this is if you just want to spam spells because it's on a lower cooldown, but you're going to run out of mana because you don't get Morellonomicon or Tear of the Goddess or any other mana item, where you shouldn't be getting those items. So it just makes a lot more sense to get E just because of that, but also because you get a huge root duration. Like, it's a big deal. If you hit someone with your root, put 2 plants on them, ult, if they don't get out of those roots before that ult snaps, then they're going to get hit like 2 or 3 more times by 2 plants. I mean, we're talking like 300 more damage, potentially, in that situation. That also lets your allies follow up. So if you hit with a 1.75 root, that gives Varus time to hit him with an arrow, Kate time to hit him with a Q, that gives someone else time to hit him with some kind of stun, like a Lux or a Morgbind. I mean, crowd control wins games. Big time. And the fact that you can hit multiple people with this is a really big deal. So, yeah, I mean, going from 0.75, getting that extra 1 second of crowd control is massive, massive, massive. So you always want to max E. Almost always. I mean, if you're in a lane where you're just completely just bulldozing them and you want an extra Q to help harass under tower and you've got a water dragon or something, so you're not going to run out of mana, then, you know, maybe 1 or 2 more points in Q could be okay. But for the vast majority of times, you just max your E first. Trust me, it's probably the right thing to do. And then after you max your E, you probably want to split your level up between Q and W. Melon in his video talking about the skills doesn't like putting any points in the seeds, but a lot has changed, particularly the jungle plants. So you can use this to scout and kill blast plants, to scout and kill scrying plants. There are a lot of things. Let me pull up a map here really quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll show you some of the utility of these plants. So having those plants is really, really important. We just talked about just how much damage the plants do, but they also have utilities. So they have 800 range, which means you can scout quite far with them. So something very popular, if you're on blue side here, something that junglers like to do is come down, use this blast plant, jump over this, and then gank you right here. So they get to save their dash, right? So if Lee Sin doesn't have to use his E to jump over to a ward, then that means that he can use his E to jump closer to you in lane. You don't want that. So come up here, drop a plant over this ledge, blow up the blast plant. That takes that crap out of the equation, so they can't use it. You can also put, and your plants also give vision. Now, a little small vision, but it's like having a free blue ward, and they last for, I think, a minute. So you can put a plant here. You can put a plant on their camps if you want, just to see, are they doing the camps? You can walk up here, put a plant, check out, see if they're doing dragon, see if they're doing baron. Then you don't have to waste wards on that. So then you can save wards. So if I blast plant this, for example, and there's a Hecarim jungle, I know he's not going to be able to jump this wall without the blast plant. So then I'm free to put my ward up here. And that'll give us more vision, more time, and it'll see if they're doing dragon. But it'll give us more time to react to a gank. Whereas if I have to put my ward right here because they could blast over this wall, then I'm going to have very little time to react. You know, Hecarim blasts over this wall and we're pressuring them right here. Boom, it's too late. We're not going to escape. But if I have a ward right here, and we're pushed up right here, and we see Hecarim come around here, we can ping back and probably get away in time. So it doesn't seem like a huge deal being able to move your ward from here to here. It's a really big deal. It's very, very helpful. So using a Zyra plant for that is useful. And you can just check stuff. Come over here. You're just trying to see, okay, have they done their red? Are they doing their red? You ward right here, typical warding spot. Then you can just pop a plant over here, just see what's up. Another really good one is you can use the ward to keep vision of a bush while you clear a pink, which is huge. So let's say they have a standard pink ward right here, and you want to clear it. You can come up, put a W in the bush, it'll see the pink. The pink does not shut out vision of the plant. So put a pink ward there, or put a W there. I mean, you can even spawn a full queue if you want, and it'll give you even more vision of the area. So if you're wondering, like if you're scared the jungler might be waiting right here and they're going to come to get you, you can just spawn a queue right there in the bush, and it'll give you like a pretty good radius. And the control ward does not shut out vision of plants. Like I just said, it only shuts out other wards. So you can get a lot of vision of the area. So you can just walk up, W, and just clear their pink that way. If they come over to defend it, no big deal. Just walk back to lane. If you don't want to fight over it, if you're scared the jungler's there, no big deal. Then just come back later, put a W there, try to get it again. Whereas, like, if you're not Zyra, you have to walk up, get very close. Remember, the plant range is 800, like I just said. Warding range is like 500 or something. I don't remember the exact range on it, but it's much closer. So if you come up, put a ward here, their jungler might be there, first of all, and they can kill you. And even if they're not, you can't see anything because of that control ward. And you have to sit here and hit this 4 times. They could be coming up. The jungler could be running in. It's very dangerous. Even if you don't die and you have to back up, they're still going to get your ward too. So that means now you're down a ward. So you're going to be much more susceptible to ganks through the river. So it's a big, big deal to have those plants for free scouting so that you can clear wards, clear blast plants, clear a lot of other stuff. So I like maxing E first and then switching points between Q and W. Q gives you more bursts and fights, but W lets you use your plants more to check things. And it'll save your life a lot. Because how many times, if you think about it, have you died at this stupid bush trying to clear it, right? So you're on red side, you have to try to get vision of this bush, and you try to go up, and there's a jungler. Or they gank you or hook you over this wall or something. It happens all the time. And it's so annoying because you really want that vision, but you just can't get it. So Zyra helps solve that problem. That's one of her many, many perks. Okay, so that's why I like, you know, maxing some in Q and some in W, depending on how the game's going, whether you need more scouting, whether it's dangerous, or whether you need more all-in damage and you want that Q damage. How are we looking on time here? I don't want to take forever on this, but I do want to give it, you know, roughly about an hour or so of time. Okay, use your Q early to push wave when you come up. So you can harass them with it, but the most important thing is try to hit level 2. And play forward. I'll show you in this video that I've got set up, but you want to play up in the minion wave and try to land auto attacks and try to land your Q with a plant on them. You don't want to hang out on the back line. Like, you don't want to move so far forward that you're taking a lot of free harass. You want to be safe about it, but you want to play forward and try to be very, very aggressive with Zyra in lane. You're one of the most dangerous people to lane against, and you want them to know that. You want them to miss CS. You need to deny CS. It's so important that you deny. You make them miss CS. Because, especially at lower elos, your allies are going to miss wide open CS. A lot of wide open CS. And if they take any harassment at all, they're going to miss even more. So your job is to take the heat off of your AD carry, apply it to theirs, make them miss CS. It's really, really important. In addition to putting damage on them, you just want to make them miss CS. And try to put that damage on the AD carry. You can hit the support if they're out of position, but in general, you want to try to hit the AD carry because they only start with 1 potion instead of 3 that these supports start with. And the supports are much more likely to have magic resist. Most AD carries have magic resist, but some will try to cheat and sneak in some attack speed blues, and you want to punish them for that. Okay. Once you're level 2, use your Q plus your plant for harass. Now, you can auto if you want. It depends on what you're up against. Like if you're up against a Caitlyn, you can't auto her that much because she can hit you back. Her range is just further than yours. But against other champions, sometimes you can sneak in some autos whenever they go for a creep. And anytime you can, you want to do that. But in general, don't try to all in, don't try to fight them unless you put a Q plant on them. If there's a plant on them, they really can't fight you back or they're going to die. So that's why I say you put the plant on them and then you auto them because they won't be able to hit you back most of the time. They're going to spend too much time running. Okay, you want to make sure that you save one of your seeds for an all-in. So don't use both seeds for harassment because if your seeds are down, you're a sitting duck. So if the jungler comes and all your seeds are down or the enemy decides to go aggressive on you and all your seeds are down, it's going to be really hard for you. So 1 seed for harass, 1 seed as backup just in case someone else comes. And remember also that plants deal 50% less damage the second plant does if 1 plant has already hit somebody. So it's inefficient to have multiple plants down. Because think of the plants as a resource. That's your biggest resource. Like, you have mana, but the plants are the biggest one. Like, you want to make sure you're using those plants to the max every time you get a chance. So having multiple plants really wastes half the potential of one of those plants. So you just want to use one for harass. Go for the harass, like I said, when they're going for the last hits. If the enemy is under 50% HP, then you can consider using E plus plant. If you hit that, that'll root them and it'll slow them. And that means you can follow up with a Q plus plant. And then often they're going to have to flash or heal if they want to live. So if they're under 50%, you can change your pattern around a little bit and start going for kills. But you're probably not going to zero people out with an E plant if they're at 100% health. Unless you have a really fed Draven or something else on your team that's playing forward with you, then maybe you can do that. But in general, you want to harass them with the Q plant until they get to 50%, and then you can think about going for the all-in with the E plus plant. Make sure that you ping an ally. If you're thinking about going all in and they're at 50%, just ping them a couple of times. Just let them know that you're going to go for it if you hit the E, and then hopefully they'll be paying attention. And if your ally's just kind of hanging out in the back, they're just playing scared, just last hitting, just tell them, hey man, you know, step up with me, let's harass them, let's run them out of this lane or something like that. And a lot of times they will step up and try to help you harass. They're just not thinking about it sometimes, especially lower elos. They're not thinking, I should play forward and harass. And then when you get the enemy pushed into a tower, then go ahead and that's your time to ward so you don't miss experience. One thing that I need to improve on a lot is I miss too much experience when I ward and roam. So I need to make sure that the wave is in the tower and I'm not going to miss as much experience when I roam and ward. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. I've muted this, but this is a Zyra number 36. I haven't released this yet. This is a pretty new Zyra video. But yeah, let's check it out. I just want to watch the laning a little bit. So we'll fast forward a little bit here. And then you can kind of see some of these patterns, and I'll sort of narrate what's going on here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I want to use the key to hit these back minions here. Like that. See, I hit Blitz also, snuck an auto attack in on Blitz. See, so I have to be, you know, I have to respect him. I have to respect his hook. Well, he got me there at level 1. But you see, like, I'm trying to hang out, just harassed again. I'm respecting his hook, so I'm playing back a little bit because I got injured. But now I've got him at about 50% Twitch at level 1, just from Q harass. Now I've got my plant. So I want to step up. I got to watch that Blitz hook, though. I want to step up and try to get some more harass as soon as... See how far back he has to play? Because he's so scared of my harass. Now once he goes up, I missed him with that, but the plant's still going to hit him a couple of times. But we're trying to get him to play back more. I'm trying to watch out for the harass. That was some pretty good harass by him. Now we've got to watch this Blitz. You know, he wants to hook. Okay, so I spawned the plants on Blitz here. He takes a lot of damage from the plants. Try to get an auto on him. Now, when you're playing against Blitzcrank also as Zyra, people will sometimes think that Blitz is a counter to Zyra. That's false. You can put a plant in front of you, and Blitz's hook will actually hook the plant instead of you. You can do the same thing with Malzahar minions. The hook hits minions. So, you know, if Blitz... Now, we don't see Twitch, and I say in the commentary he's probably invisible, which he is. Right there, double plant, exhaust, hit him. Because I know it's an all-in, so I can use the double plants, and we get the kill. Now I get my E, root him. Get some more damage on him. I'm hoping we can get him to flash or something. Nope, don't want to walk too close because he can hook you under tower. So that was a pretty good exchange. So I already had Twitch down to about 50%. He tried to all-in anyways, and then I just put 2 plants on him with a Q, and that was it. I didn't have my root. It was only level 2, but you can kind of see that was a ton of damage. So let's move forward just a little bit here. I don't want to show you too much, but I just want to show you a little bit of the play patterns. So I'm just hanging out in this bush. This is another popular thing to do. You just sit in a bush where they don't see you. And you just wait until they get close. I'm pinging because I want to go all in. Okay, there he is. Okay, so he flashed my roots. But I can still... They're still hitting him. Now they're hitting Blitz. I'm auto-attacking. Hitting him with a Q. One more. We don't get it. He wasted. He really shouldn't have used his heal there. But otherwise, it was pretty good. So Twitch didn't know that I was in that bush. You just want to hang out in bushes as Zyra. So go back, get a control ward. If you're ahead like we are, get a control ward, put it in this bush, and just sit here. They're going to know you're there, probably. But they can't really do a lot to you. And they have to just play very scared and just miss a lot of CS. So now watch this. This is what I'm talking about, I think. I get this blast plant here. Yeah, plant, kill the blast plant so they can't jump over the wall. Put a ward there, go up, take their scrying. I should have put a ward like right. I think I saw a fight going down middle, and that's why I wanted to go there. Let's see. So ward over there, that's another popular place, just in case he flashes. I'm up here, ready for it. I also got some experience off of it. Spawning plants. Now I should have dropped my other ward right here. I think I just said that. You see me pointing to it in the video? I think I'm saying, this is during a live stream, I think I'm saying I should have warded there, but I saw a fight middle, so I ran over there first. But that's kind of the laning pattern that you want. You just hang out in bushes, you try to apply pressure. Now their wave is much bigger right now than ours is. That's why I'm playing back a little bit, because if Blitz hooks me right here, it's going to be a big problem. So you got to respect wave sizes. You don't want to ever fight in an enemy wave that's much larger than yours, because those minions do a lot of damage early on. Okay, so I'm playing up now. This is what I'm talking about, playing up. You see how I'm pretty far up? I'm zoning the Twitch off, so he can't come up in CS. Now, we don't know where Blitz is. I think he's in this bush, but he won't pull us by himself. No, he's not. But yeah, we're just pushing him up, playing up. Just got our ultimate. There's no way they can fight us. We're really far ahead in this lane. I'm trying to avoid that Twitch poison too, so after he uses that, I try to move up. I'm going for all-in kills at this point. But yeah, that's just kind of the play pattern. I'll go ahead and exit out of this. But that's what you want to be doing, using your Qs to harass, hiding in bushes, you know, being unexpected. And yeah, there you go. Okay, how to roam. So roaming as Zyra, you're not very good if you just straight up walk right up to people and try to hit them with roots. So she's not... Like with Malzahar, you can just walk right up and hit them with an R and they're going to die. But it's harder to hit that with Zyra. So you want to hit from hidden areas. Kind of like I was just hiding in that brush there. You want to be hidden. So use your plants to scout dangerous areas. I already described that and why that's important. Use it to counter or to kill jungle blast plants. Just showed you that. Set up bush traps. So gain control of a major area and be patient. If you set up in a river bush, you will still get XP. And then try to be hidden when you go for roots. So I'll show you here on this map again. So one of my favorite places to hide on either side of the map, if you're blue side or red side, is right here. Is Zyra. Get this zone of control. Because it's going to help you around dragon. It's going to help you clear out their wards. They don't have any vision of dragon. And you sit right here. So you put a control ward here. And then depending on which side you're on, let's say you're on red side, you want to put a control ward here on your side of the bush. Sweep out all this vision, put a ward here, and then just hang out a lot of times. So maybe a ward here, and if you have an extra ward, you can ward here. So this gives you vision of this whole area. And often someone will come walking through here, like a jungler or a support or somebody will want to try to gain control of this bush. Or if they push up, let's say that their jungler comes from over here, tries to gank, then you can come out and gank them as well. So you're just in a really nice position, and they won't know where you are because they don't have vision of any of this. If you're doing it properly. So you're just going to be MIA off the map. They're not going to know where you are. And as soon as someone comes to ward, you catch them with an E, plant, ult, Q, auto, and they're probably going to die. Unless it's a super tanky champion. But it's really, really strong. And while you're sitting here waiting, you're still getting experience from middle lane. So you're taking a little bit of experience from middle lane. But you don't just want to stand in middle lane. Like, if everyone else is sieging, like actually on the tower, then yes, walk out and help them with that. But in general, if the lane's kind of even, if people are just kind of trading and just hanging out, then just hang out in the bush, and I'll guarantee you'll get a ton of kills like that. You can also kill people over this wall with Zyra. She has a lot of range. So if they come to try to ward you right here, you can still E, plant, Q, R. You can't auto them usually unless they're like right on that spot. But you can do quite a bit of damage. You can at least harass them if they go for it. So yeah, you just want to kind of control this area. And just in general, when you're trying to catch people or in team fights, just hide around corners, get in bushes. Like, just get somewhere where they can't see you. So, you know, if there's a bunch of people like walking up here and they're wanting to fight, or like, here's a really popular scenario. Let's say that they're pushing into your tier 2. Drop a ward right here before they get there, obviously. Have a ward ready. If you know they're going to push into your tier 2, have a ward right here. Have this swept so you know there's no ward here. And just hang out right here. And then as soon as a few of them line up, just hit them with an E and some roots over this. Ult, boom. Team engages, dead. Or another one, if you are harassing, like you're trying to push into their tier 2 right here in your blue side, hang out right here. Someone tries to come up and stop this, just hit them with a root. Ult, boom, dead. So there are a lot of these little places where you can hit over walls, like here, here. You can be like right here and catch people here. You can be here and catch them here. You just want to catch people out, or a good Baron baiting place. She's great at setting Baron traps. You set a ward here, and you set a ward here. Sweep out all of this, pink this, make sure it's clear, and then just hang out right here. And then if they try to walk up here, you can rotate right here, catch them out across this corner, or if they think they're clever and they try to walk up this way and come in, then you can hang out right here, blow them up right there. So just hanging out on this rock as you get control of vision of both of these places, and then you just catch them when they go for Baron. Another popular place is to hang out right here with a ward here and a ward here. Have all of this swept. Whenever they go for Baron, you just rotate wherever they are and you just catch them out around these edges. Now, one thing that I like to do that's kind of funny too, that I've talked about in other videos, my advanced tactics video, for example, is the oops pink ward. So you just drop a pink ward where it makes it look like you missed a bush. Like, oh, look at that idiot there. Just drop a pink ward and people will go clear it. So if you're really wanting to catch someone out before you kill Baron, just drop a pink ward like right here, not in the bush, but like just outside the bush right here. Make sure you sweep this first. There's no vision in there. Then just drop a pink right here. And whenever they go to kill it, then you kill them. Or just drop a pink ward right here or right here. And whenever they go to clear it out, then you just kill them. So, I mean, usually people will wander by these areas anyways, but if they need a little bit of extra cheese in the trap, then you can drop a pink ward there, and you're paying 75 gold basically to get 300 gold for a kill, in addition to potentially getting Baron or a tower or something else. So that's the best way to roam and gank as Zyra, is to hide out in these really sneaky areas and just catch people out, bush them, blow them up, 100 to 0. Like just walking up, like just walking from bottom and just walking into the middle of the lane and trying to catch people with roots. Like you can do that, but it's a lot harder. It's not as easy as it is with someone like Malzahar. So yeah, that's what I recommend. But just be careful. The main thing is that you have vision of these areas. So don't come walking up through this area and trying to like ward and hide right here if you haven't swept any of this, because there's probably a ward somewhere, either here, 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 here. There's going to be a ward somewhere. And if they see you walk up and get in this bush right here, then they're going to kill you. You're real easy to kill if they spot you out. Or if you try to, another popular one, and I've been guilty of this too, is where you're trying to set up right here. You don't have a sweeper, and you try to walk down here to go ward this, and there's a ward right here, and then middle lane, or the jungler and bot, a bunch of people collapse on you and kill you. So just make sure that you're not extending beyond where you've swept, where you have control of vision when you set up these things. Okay, we're almost I think we're about at an hour, right? Yeah, that's pretty close to an hour. That's a good number. So let's talk about team fights really quickly. In a team fight, if you can pick someone off, do it. So if it's a 4v5 fight, do it, especially if you don't have to use your ultimate. So even if it's the support and you have to do like an E-plant to kill a Thresh or something, do it. Supports are actually quite important right now, especially if they have like Redemption and Locket, or they're a heavy damage support like a Brand. If you can kill a Brand before he gets to ultimate in a fight, that's a lot of damage. I mean, Brand supports often have the most damage of an entire team. It's not uncommon for Zyra to have the most damage in a team fight, or just at the end when you look at damage to champions like Brand, Zyra, maybe even Malzahar in the right circumstances, they can have the most damage to champions. So it's very, very important to take out, especially AP supports. Don't underestimate it. Don't think, oh, I shouldn't waste stuff because they're a support. Supports are very powerful right now. So if you can kill them before the fight even starts, before they get to use their ultimate, or before they get to use their Redemption or their Locket, or their Janna R or whatever, do it. So if you can kill someone, do it. A 4v5, even if you don't have your ultimate a lot of times, depending on who you kill, like, if you can get it into a 4v5, it's going to be favorable. So if you can pick someone off, do it. Stay very far back, really, really far back. So if they're like, you need to pay attention. If like their Echo can jump on you or their LeBlanc or whatever, you need to stay really far back. Like, do not let them engage on you. That's bad. You don't often want to be the initiator. The only time you want to be an initiator is if you are hiding behind, like, in an area where you can hit them with blind roots. That's the only time you want to try to initiate. Like, if you're trying to siege towers here, for example, you're trying to siege red tower and it's just like a 5-on-5, and you throw your roots and plant on somebody and you miss, or it hits somebody and you can't really use it under tower, then if they engage on you, you have nothing. You have nothing. All you're going to be able to do is like ult with no plants, which is going to do virtually no damage. So, you know, just stay very far back and be patient. Just let other people siege and hit the tower. And then when that, you know, Riven tries to come in and dive your AD carry, or the LeBlanc tries to come in and kill your AD carry, or anyone else that's a priority threat, then you use your root, you know, WW ult and kill them. So just wait for people to clump up, wait for people to commit, and then you counter engage. Zyra is classically a counter engage champion because those roots are hard to hit at max range, but they're not hard to hit if someone's, you know, like right in front of you. So you want to counter engage. So just wait till they engage and then you counter engage. Unless you're in a sneaky spot that I just described, then you can consider going for it. Okay. Yeah, use the roots to stop divers. You can use 1 Q plus a plant for poke and just save your E, save your roots, and save your 1 plant just in case the major threat comes in. So you can do a Q plus a W to harass them a little bit, especially if there's not a tower. But you want to make sure you save at least E, 1 plant, and an R for the diver. Yeah, and just keep retreating back. Just basically think of yourself like an AD carry. You do not want to be anywhere close to that fight. So you always want to be repositioning and just hitting whatever you can hit with your auto attacks and just throwing Qs and just doing whatever you can. But you need to kite back. You need to hold on to your E and at least 1 plant for emergency situations. Okay, and just try to use your Q on plants that spawn as well. I talked about earlier on how you want to be moving towards what you want the plants to spawn on top of, your passive spawn. And just pay attention. Look at the ground. If there's a plant somewhere, hit that with a Q. Even if, in a team fight, even if it doesn't hit a player, like obviously you want to hit players with your Q if you can, but even if it doesn't hit a player, just spawning that plant is really, really important. The plant's going to deal more damage than your Q, as long as it's constantly firing on people. So, you know, cast that Q, hit plants with it, try to hit players, but yeah, just pay attention to your own cooldowns. I know it's a lot to keep up with in a team fight, but if you notice that, you know, your W is going to be off cooldown, you're going to be able to plant your own seed in 1 second and your Q's up, maybe just wait that 1 second and then Q when you have a plant to use. So I know that's not always easy to do when you're paying attention to a million things in a team fight, but in general, hang out in the back, be very scared, peel off of your AD carry or whoever the priority target is. And if they all clump up together, use your E plus your whatever plants you have left over, ult, and then run. Like, unless you like 100% know you're going to have it with that ultimate, then you can start auto attacking them. But in general, your auto attacks, frankly, don't do that much outside of laning phase, and you want to throw them. But it's more important that you're safe and that you don't die, especially if you haven't used your R yet. If you get engaged upon, and you think your team might be able to follow up and do a bunch of damage, just spam your stuff. Just like, you know, plant, Q, E, R. Just use everything that you possibly have before you die, and then your teammates might be able to follow up and actually get the kill. I mean, I've had it happen before where, you know, several people jumped on top of me, and I was able to just get a full rotation of everything off. It knocked everybody to like half health, and my team cleaned it up and won the game. So that does happen, but ideally they don't kill you. You're in a safer position where they don't jump on you, but if it does happen, and your teammates are close enough to do something about it, then spam all of your stuff and kill them. Now, if no one's close, you know, if you're like trying to ward somewhere and you get jumped by Zac, then don't waste your ultimate, don't waste your exhaust. You know, if you can't escape, just die. Just do as much damage as you can, but just don't use your stuff. But if your team's close, if it's going to be a team fight, then go ahead and see how much damage you can get on them. Okay, and I don't have the Zyra playlist here, but it'll be here when you look at it in the description if you want to look at this Google Doc, and then I'll also put it in the comment section as the top comment, and then I'll also put it in the video description, so you'll have a lot of access to this playlist. And it has a lot of good stuff on it. Well, I can just go ahead and put it on there now at the end here. And I'll show you the channel too. This is a good chance to promote the channel. This is the first video that you've seen of mine. I have a lot of guides like this. I'm going to do more champion guides soon, but I have tier list analysis, patch notes, the psychology and advanced tactics that I just mentioned. If you're wondering, well, why is it harder to climb this season? What can you do about it? Analyzing metagames, mastering the map. If you want to know more about roaming and warding in general, that's a good video. If you want to know more about metagames, that's good. So check them out. I have playlists for a lot of different champions. So we've got 62 Janna videos, 29 Nautilus, 55 Tahm Kench, and we're just constantly adding more of all these different champions. So I'll probably have at least some videos of your favorite champions, and I'm always adding more to that. And then my live streams, I stream Monday to Friday, sometimes on weekends as well, starting at about 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. A little bit later, I'm going to stream after this, but I really wanted to get this done, so you know it's going to be a little bit late tonight, but that'll be okay. But usually around somewhere between 8:30 and 10 p.m., most of the time closer to 8:30. And then we go till about 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I teach college, so my classes don't actually start until 2:30 in the afternoon. And I only teach on Tuesday, Thursday, so it's a convenient schedule for me. So check that out. And you can see all of the past live streams here. So if you ever miss a live stream, but you want to see them, you can catch all of the past live streams right here. And then let me go ahead and grab that Zyra video really quickly, and I'll link it in here for you. I think. Maybe. Maybe not. What? Oh, the strategy. Okay. There we go. There we go. So I'll link it. As you can see, it starts with the newest, works its way to the oldest. And if you click on it, this is what it'll look like. And then it has my runes as well for all of them. But I just told you the runes that I like here. But anyways, post that up. There we go. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. Come check out the channel. Come check out the community of streaming. It's a great, wonderful community. We're gaining more people every day. We run a real friendly ship here. You know, I try to keep it as PG as I can. Not that there's anything wrong with cussing and yelling and, you know, being controversial and stuff like that. But we try to keep it relatively calm, relatively chill, relatively family friendly as much as we can. I mean, we have some jokes in there. We have a good time. It's not boring, but you know, I try to make it just a welcoming, fun place for everybody as much as possible on the stream. And we've got some wonderful people that come out every night, and it's so welcoming. Every time we get a new person, people just get so excited and they welcome you and they talk with you, and people play with each other as well in the game League of Legends. So it's a good time. So come check that out. And I'm going to do more of these guides as well. I know I'm going to do a Malzahar guide very soon, and I probably will do a Brand guide, a Janna guide, Nautilus, Tahm Kench, a lot of the popular ones that I play. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And let me know if you have any questions as well. If you have any suggestions for Zyra, or if you have any, you know, you want me to comment on something that I didn't talk about, just let me know, and I'm more than happy. I respond to every comment within 24 hours. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time.